was faster and faster.
Okay, let's talk Hungarian Grand Prix and championship pressure. Welcome back to With Antone, MotoGP. And in Hungary, pressure was everything. Marc Marquez was chasing history, Pedro Acosta was chasing a breakthrough, Jorge Martin was trying to restart the season, and Jack Miller was fighting for his future. And Aprilia was discovering what happens when pressure starts turning to internal meetings. When teams start holding meetings about problems, they're usually already behind the problem. Now, MotoGP pressure. Pressure can do a lot of things. Marc Marquez, pressure has made him a champion. Everyone else seemed to be feeling it, but Marc was managing it. And he celebrated 100 Grand Prix wins. 74 MotoGP wins puts him second on the all-time list to Rossi on 89. And all this after 2 weeks of being in hospital. And the number 72, well, for Bez, not a great race, comes a DNF, and the other is the new championship gap. Marc Marquez, 72 points behind Bezzecchi. And while everyone around him is reacting, Marc is controlling the Grand Prix weekend. Not necessarily the fastest on every lap, but he made the right decisions. He resisted pressure from the Ducati team and he chose the medium tyre. He was patient. He waited for that tyre to come in and then he executed perfectly on the track. And that's what champions do. And that's what he did. He put the bike on pole position, he won the sprint, and he won the Grand Prix. And of course, if you're enjoying With Antone MotoGP, why not subscribe? It's free to do and it really helps the channel out. Now, what about pressure? Pedro Acosta creating an opportunity. Sure, Pedro rolled the dice. He went with the soft tyre. He used an aggressive start strategy and he was trying to beat all of the championship leaders. It didn't quite happen, but it showed that for a rider like himself, Pedro is willing to take risks. The question, well, it's been remaining all season. What can KTM do? Can they give him a package to turn those risks into wins? And now he's the rider in history with the most podiums without a win. Well, what about over at Aprilia? Well, pressure has created meetings. And for months, we have been saying that winning a championship requires more than a fast motorcycle and a fast rider. It requires team alignment. Now look, Martin, he was pushing at the start. Chaotic start, chaotic first lap crash. Bez, Fernandez and Aldeguer all out, and immediately questions started to follow. Luckily, no injuries. Discussions have begun, and yes, more meetings have begun. Because the moment a team starts having lots of meetings about its problems, it's usually because the problems have already escaped the garage. Look, championship teams, they should be spending their time improving performance. A team that is struggling, they'll spend their time discussing why. Why are things happening? What is wrong performance? And what are riders doing? And there is your difference right there. Now look, Aprilia hasn't lost its Mugello speed, but what I'm less convinced about is whether they have unity. And this turn one incident that we saw may have opened yet another chapter in the dynamic between the riders and the Aprilia team. Because every incident now gets analysed and every comment will be amplified, especially when you've got the Aprilia Racing CEO Rivola saying the error is entirely Jorge's. Okay, what about Jorge Martin? Well, that pressure for him created a mistake. There's no question his talent, there's no question of Jorge Martin's speed. But Hungary showed what happens when a rider knows the importance of a start, expectation and urgency. And after his recent so many crashes in the Grand Prix and testing, he was set and ready to go. He looked like a rider pushing not behind his limits, but beyond the track limits, and MotoGP rarely rewards this approach. And the question I'm sure, and he's asking and many other riders are asking, that turn one resurfacing at Ballantyne Park, was it really safe? Now pressure, Jack Miller created one of the great performances under pressure. Everybody's talking about winners, but sometimes the ride of the day comes from a final 8th place finish. He held the riders behind him for 13 laps in 4th place. Demonstrated great late braking, and he fought for every position on the track. If you're Jack Miller and your future is being discussed, that's the sort of Sunday Grand Prix you need. Now on the other side, Fabio Quartararo, no pressure. Well, it created a bad weekend. Nothing worked. It's the worst Grand Prix of his career. Track penalties, losing track position, 2 long lap penalties he got through cutting the circuit, and he wasn't able to recover, and he finally retired the bike, the M1 Yamaha, into the pits. His Sunday wasn't good. Look, Fabio has hit rock bottom. So what happens now with Fabio and Yamaha? Drop it down in the comments. Now on the quiet side of the weekend, Ogura, no dramas, no headlines, no controversy, just another solid Aprilia Grand Prix result into 4th place ahead of the HRC's Marini, and again Mireia still improving. Sometimes that's exactly what Trackhouse and a team needs. Ogura did the right thing, especially when you got the broader garage making headlines for all the wrong reasons and for the crashes. Now the track and the Ballantyne Park safety. Last year we saw the crashes, last year we heard the riders' concerns, and this year we see the result of a tight non-MotoGP track. The pressure on the start was understandable. You've got to get into the front. You can see no one can pass on that track. So before the weekend, we asked the question, would the organisers make any safety upgrades? Well, the answer, no upgrades. They started talking about starts, more space, grid changes, but no action. So let me ask yet again, is anyone listening to the riders? Look, it seems that we're going to leave the Ballantyne circuit. This will be its last Grand Prix, but really the voice of the riders. But after the race, no one was talking about the track, thank God. They were talking about the people and the riders. Marc reached 100 wins. Pedro took another step, and Jack Miller reminded everybody why he's still on the grid. Look, Jorge Martin created some fresh questions, and Aprilia showed that when pressure starts turning into meetings, you're no longer managing the future, you're managing consequences. And in MotoGP, that's 2 very different things. So we saw 100 wins, we saw a great battle at the front, and we saw a MotoGP star hit rock bottom. But what do you think? Why don't you drop it down in the comments below? Let's have a chat. And let me know who you thought the best ride of the GP was, and maybe who was the worst GP ride. And let me ask, does Aprilia really need another meeting? Okay, remember, it's data, not noise. And if you've liked the episode as always, then why not give us a thumbs up? If you're brand new here, welcome to With Antone. Why not drop us a subscription, and why not share the video around, and we can really grow in the MotoGP community. Okay, thanks for watching this week, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Okay, bye for now.
And always faster and faster.